Hello, hi, and welcome to Free Motion Quilting for Beginners mini course lesson 2. Today in this lesson we are going to learn how to start free motion quilting on your machine. Alright, we're now at the machine. I have a white thread on top and a red one at the bottom. Now the thing is because I have a blue on top and also a yellow at the back. So will just create the right contrast for me to see the stitches. We're going to see whether there is any tension issues. So we are going to go through a little bit of stitching and then we're going to see how it goes. So for this first one, what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be setting the needle down. So I'm going to turn on my machine and I'm going to hold on to this two thread and I'm going to be going down and back up, and now I'm going to pull the bottom thread up so that it comes to the surface, and that you want to just make it sure that it's actually on the surface. Now this is to prevent that you have a bunching at the back. I want to do a couple of stitches on the same place, so while holding the thread, and now I can take the thread off because it's already secured down, and I'm going to make a line towards the bottom. And you just want to get used to how moving the quilt is. As you can see how I put my two fingers there just to hold the quilt. Now I'm going to be moving up and down and moving my hand as I go through. So just have a feel on how you actually move the quilt with this. Now it's a straight line, but we are still in a free motion mode. So you want to go ahead and just follow along the lines. This is a line that I made before, which is about half an inch away from the side. So you want to go ahead and just try and keep moving your hand up and down as you come out of frame. And as you reach to the end, just stop and pivot your quilt. Since this is a free motion quilt, on a free motion quilting mode, you have this freedom to actually move in any direction you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do all the way around to frame the whole quilt sandwich. Now as you move, you actually want to see how your stitch length is going. So if you are going fast, and whether your hand is fast enough to catch up with the stitch length, or whether your hand is actually faster than the quilt. So you see now I'm moving really fast and my hand is actually moving as fast as I move as well. So you want to get used to how fast you are pressing the foot pedal and also the movement of your hand, and this will ensure that you actually have a good stitch length. So now I'm just going to do a couple of back stitch there to just secure the whole thing. Now I'm going to be doing a up and down motion as I go through and test out a few stitches, and also trying to get a use of the free motion. So I'm going to do a U-turn up and down, just a simple motion, and I'm just going to be testing out the speed that I'm going to be doing. So you want to do the same thing. You want to test out how fast you are going and how slow you are moving your hand and how fast you're moving your hand. So just do a couple of up and down in different sizes. So I'm sure that you have done the practice using the doodle, and this is something similar. So you want to just get used to how it's actually moving. It's basically the same thing, and you want to go ahead and just have a look at how you're going to be doing it with the stitches. Now we don't want to worry too much about the stitch tension at this moment. We are going to see it in a while. But if you feel that your tension is way off, you can have a stop, and then you can go ahead and just correct your tension or test out a different tension setting, and you can go ahead and test out again. Now what I'm going to be doing now in this second part is I'm going to be adding a little bit of curve. So I'm going to be adding a little bit of to the right curve and to the end curve. It's basically the same thing. It's still a U-turn, but this time I'm adding curve to it. So it's adding one more detail as you go along and practice. So I've shown you how to do this in the doodle sheet, but this is something similar that you want to go ahead and try with the free motion quilting on the machine itself. So you want to go ahead and try different sizes as well. So go and vary those things and have a feel of how you want it to be and how you are moving the quilt. So as you reach the end, you want to know that you want to go back to this line, and you can actually go there by moving it in reverse direction, but it's going to be a bit harder. You can feel it how you are comfortable with it, or you can just pivot through and you can do a horizontal line instead, because this is the benefit of free motion quilting. You can actually go in any direction you want. So I'm going to be doing the same thing, but this time I'm moving it horizontally instead of up and down. So I'm moving to the left, to the right with the same movement. So I'm basically doing an up and down and sometimes a curve, but this time I'm moving horizontally instead of up and down. But you still can move up and down if you feel that's a bit too difficult. You just pivot through again and just do up and down, but this time we're moving to the left instead of to the right. So again, the same thing, you want to go ahead and just practice a couple more of these lines as you go through and fill up this quilt sandwich. Now what I'm doing is actually I'm going to be adding a little bit of wiggly movement. So instead of just going up and down in a U-turn mode, I'm adding a wiggle. So I can do this horizontally or vertically, just depending on how I feel. I'm adding this wiggle movement every time I'm going up and down. This will create more texture to it, and that will also help you make a more random pattern. So now as I reach to the end, I am going to be looking at how to fill up this next one. So I'm going to be doing some horizontal move, and then I'm going to be doing some vertical move, but again the same thing. It's basically a U-turn but with more wiggly movement to it, so you can see that it's getting more random. And this is important so that you create this more random stippling instead of just moving up and down, and you can see it. So you are still moving to the right. In this case, we can still see that it's still moving to the right, but we're adding more features to it. So by adding some more wiggles and then adding a smaller one and a variation of sizes, you can see that it's getting more random. Now, if you follow the practice doodle, you know that each lines I am going to be adding each elements to practice with. I'm taking it off from the machine, and what I'm doing is going to look all over how the stitch looking like and how are the stitch tension. You can do this earlier on, even in the first row, but I decided to do it when I finished all these 3 rows so that I can actually adjust it, and I have a feel of moving and all in different directions. So what I'm looking at, as you can see some of this back stitch that is forming into eyelashes, which means that my tension is not set properly. I can especially see this in the curve or where I'm doing it a bit faster. You can see that it's different for small U-turns and for the larger ones. This is because different movement can cause different tension. So what I'm doing now, I have to adjust the tension setting. So I'm just going to be adjusting the top thread setting because that's easier to do, and I'm going to be testing it out again. So if you have the same problem, you want to try and do that first. So try and just adjust the tension setting of your top thread first, and this is what I'm doing now on my machine, and I'm going to go ahead and try again and see whether that solved the issue. Now if that doesn't solve the issue, you might want to try what we call as the genie washer that I've shown you before. Alright, so now I'm going to be putting it back on the machine and just doing the same thing. So putting the needle down and up and bringing that thread back up, and you want to do a couple of stitches to secure that in place, and then you want to be doing the first one, and I'm going to be taking off this thread off because you don't want that thread to be overlapping with the stitches that you're going to be doing. So I'm going to be practicing again the same movement, going up and down with more wiggly movement, and this time you want to go ahead and just try a larger ones or a smaller ones. You just want to go ahead and play around because this is our first lesson, and you want to get used to moving along and feel the movement. Now you can see that I stop a lot. Now every time you stop, you want to go ahead and practice that stop and going back to that movement, because that's important to ensure a smooth motif. So if you stop, you have to choose a place to stop, that ensure that you can move easily after that. So I'm looking at the stitch tension again at the back, and it looks a bit better, and I think that's going to be good. I'm going to be trying it again. If you find that your stitch tension is still not okay, you can still adjust the stitch tension while you are at the machine, so you don't have to take it off. So I'm going to be testing out all the different motion and see how your hand is moving every time you stop and move again. So now I'm stopping and I'm moving it again. Now you have to remember to stop each time your hand got out of frame, so you can see that my hand is always in frame there. Now I'm doing some loops just to have a feel on how it moves, so you can have a vision on your in your head how you want things to go, and you can also have that idea where you want to go. So I was going to fill that up, and I had that in mind, so I'm just leading my hand towards moving that. You can just go ahead and try different off stitches like zigzag or anything that you prefer. And just by doing this loop, I just want to see whether the stitch length or the stitch tension is actually maintained, and it looks good. So I'm just going to end this at the end, and I'll see you in the next lesson. I hope you did enjoy this first lesson and you did try a lot of different stitches. Now if you find that this first sandwich is not enough, you can do a couple of sandwich to practice with until you are feeling better about it. Now we must remember that each practice you have to improve something so that you can be getting better at it. I'm just to secure that in hand and just finish it off. Alright, I'll see you in the next lesson.